Study 8.5, Our Creator's Calendar, identifying the beginning of the Chodesh lunar month and identifying the beginning of the Shana year with Dawiḍ and Yahunathan. Shalom, this is the fifth in a series of studies on the subject of our Creator's Calendar. The outline of this study. 1. Identifying the beginning of the Chodesh lunar month with Dawiḍ and Yahunathan. The Earth is orbiting the Sun and the Moon is orbiting the Earth. The full moon opposition occurs when the syzygy is Sun, Earth, Moon, stars. Therefore, identifying the beginning of a lunar month. Observe the moon in the afternoon when it is waxing and in the last few days leading up to the full moon opposition. The moon rises before the sun sets, and then the next day the moon rises before the sun sets, but later in the day. And then the next day the moon rises before the sun sets, but later again in the day. Then the full moon opposition occurs. Now, if the full moon opposition produces a lunar eclipse, then it may be observed as a penumbral, partial, or total lunar eclipse, a blood moon. However, most lunar months the full moon opposition does not produce a lunar eclipse, and it is difficult to distinguish between a 95% illuminated moon and a 100% illuminated moon. However, Dawiḍ and Yahunathan give us two signs to show us the moon has crossed over the syzygy line. This is the first sign, a weak semi-diameter sun-moon handshake. King Dawiḍ did not interpret this sign as the beginning of the first day of the lunar month, but from this he knew the next day would be the beginning of the first day of the lunar month. This is the second sign, the sign Dawiḍ and Yahunathan were looking for. The moon rises after the sun sets. This sign was the trigger for King Sha'ul to hold his first banquet meal. At every full moon opposition, our Creator marks his dateline on the surface of the earth. His dateline is the meridian of longitude running through the sublunar point at the precise moment of the full moon opposition. Each lunar month, his dateline is in a different location on the surface of the earth. His dateline may lie either to the east or to the west of the observer's geographical location. Our Creator decides whether you, in your geographic location, will have a 29 or 30-day lunar month, not your religious leaders or politicians. And in any given lunar month, some geographic locations will have a 29-day lunar month, while other geographic locations will have a 30-day lunar month. Illustrated below are two full moon oppositions in 2025. In the diagram on the left, our Creator's international dateline is to the west of an observer in Israel. In the diagram on the right, our Creator's international dateline is to the east of an observer in Israel. When the dateline falls to the west of Israel, Israel will see the first sign, and Israel will see the second sign, just as Dawiḍ and Yahunathan saw. However, when the dateline falls to the east of Israel, Israel will not see the first sign, but Israel will see the second sign. This is why Dawiḍ and Yahunathan were looking for the second sign. The first sign is a weak sun-moon handshake in the bokeh morning twilight. Note, observers will not see this sign if our Creator's international dateline falls to the east of them. Then Dawiḍ and Yahunathan make their plan to reveal King Sha'ul's heart. They have seen the first sign and may confidently say, tomorrow is the Chodesh. This is day 1 of Dawiḍ hiding in the field. The second sign, the moon rises after the sun sets in the Erev evening twilight. This is the sign King Sha'ul's first banquet meal. Note, observers in all geographical locations will see this sign. That night, the full moon shines brightly from east to west. I will call this the full moon night. The third sign is a strong sun-moon handshake in the bokeh morning twilight, as the moon sets after the sun rises. This sunrise marks the beginning of the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month, and this is day 2 of Dawiḍ in hiding, a day of rest and worship, a day when shofars are sounded. Yahunathan ate no food that second day of Dawiḍ in hiding. In the Erev evening twilight, after sunset, when the day had ended, King Sha'ul held his second banquet meal. Day 3 of Dawiḍ in hiding. Dawiḍ was prepared to hide in the field until the evening. However, in the morning Yahunathan shoots his arrows as the sign for Dawiḍ to flee. 2. Sun-moon handshakes. We have 3 signs. The first sign is a weak sun-moon handshake in the morning. Tomorrow is the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month. The second sign is the moon rises after the sun sets in the evening, when the Chodesh lunar month came. The third sign is a strong sun-moon handshake. The moon sets after the sun rises in the morning. I have been following this calendar for over 7 years. My advice is that you ignore the 2 sun-moon handshakes in the morning. Yes, they are spectacular when you see them, but they are unreliable in terms of defining the calendar. As 1, when the dateline falls to the east of your geographic position, you will not see the first sign. And 2, if, for example, your latitude is north, the sun's declination is north, and the moon's declination is south, the moon may set before the sun rises, the reverse of the above. So you will not see the third sign. This is because rising and setting times are determined by true altitude, which is complementary to zenith distance, and zenith distance is determined by latitude of the observer and the declination of the celestial body. Keep it simple, stupid. Your indication that the moon has crossed over the syzygy line is the second sign. The moon rises after the sun sets in the evening, when the Chodesh lunar month came. 3. Identifying the beginning of the Shana year with Dawiḍ and Yahunathan. Establishing Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. 1. The full moon opposition, FMO, must be after the March equinox, because the barley must be ripe for the wave sheaf offering. 2. There must be either 12 or 13 lunar months each year. 3. Using stellarium or other astronomical software, select Yerushalayim Yisrael as the location, because we want the woman Bethula to be standing vertical, not lying on her side. Keep all times in UTC to avoid mistakes. 4. We are looking for the lunar month, lunation number, when the full moon is close to the star in Bethula's left hand. The name of this star is Schemek, Hebrew meaning branch, a figure of speech for our Messiah. 5. We are looking for the lunar month, lunation number, when, 14 days later, the new moon conjunction is in Tela, Hebrew, as this is the sign of Passover, the sign of the Lamb. 6. Having identified the correct lunar month, at the first moon rise after the full moon opposition, The moon rises after the sun sets. This is the sign when the Chodesh came. This is the sign for King Sha'ul's first banquet meal, when the place of Dawiḍ was empty, but Sha'ul spoke not a word that day. 7. That night is the full moon night, when the Levana, white moon, shines brightly from east to west. 8. At the next sunrise, the moon sets after the sun rises. This is the sign marking the beginning of the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month, a day of rest and worship, also known as the Kisi Yom, throne day. 9. At the next moon rise, we see the sign of Revelation 12:1, Bethula, with the moon at her feet. This is the sign for King Sha'ul's second banquet meal. Establishing Rosh Hashanah, 6 years of full moon opposition, marking the first lunar month of the year. This diagram is for an observer in Jerusalem, Israel. It illustrates 6 years of the first lunar month of the year. The evening before the full moon opposition, the sun sets after the moon rises. Then the full moon opposition occurs. After the full moon opposition occurs, in the evening the sun sets before the moon rises. This is the sign for King Sha'ul's first banquet meal, and is identified by the full moon being close to Schemek Hebrew or Spica Latin. The full moon night follows. Then the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month. Then in the evening, the sign for King Sha'ul's second banquet meal is identified by the full moon being close to the feet of Bethula, Hebrew, Virgo, Greek. And 14 days later, at the new moon conjunction, the dark new moon is in Tela, Hebrew, Aries, Greek. This is the sign of Passover, the sign of the Lamb. So again, in pictures, we have the countdown to the full moon opposition. Then the sign when the Chodesh lunar month came. The moon rises after the sun sets. The full moon is close to the star in Bethula's left hand. The name of this star is Schemek, Hebrew meaning branch, a figure of speech for our Messiah, or Spica in Latin. This is the sign for King Sha'ul's first banquet meal. Then the full moon night, when the Levana, white full moon, shines brightly from east to west. Then the sunrise, marking the beginning of the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month, also known as Kisi Yom, throne day, a day of rest and worship, a day when shofars are sounded. This is Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. Then the sign of the woman with the full moon at her feet. This is the sign for King Sha'ul to hold his second banquet meal. 4. Rosh Hashanah 2024. And a great sign was seen in the heaven, a woman clad with the sun, and with the Selene white moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Top is a screenshot from Stellarium, an astronomical program. The location is Nelson, New Zealand, and the time is 1800 New Zealand Standard Time, Wednesday the 24th of April 2024. Note the full moon is at the feet of the woman, Bethula, Hebrew, or Virgo, Greek, and the star in her left hand, Schemek, Hebrew, or Spica, Latin, is just to the west of the full moon. Below this are the corresponding photographs of this event, of this sign. We understand a pink sky in the west when the sun is setting due to the sun's light being refracted through the Earth's atmosphere. However, I never before appreciated the pink sky in the east due to the sun's light reflected off the face of the full moon and back through the Earth's atmosphere, giving the woman a pink dress. How appropriate. And a great sign was seen in the heavens, a woman clad with the sun, in a pink dress, with the Selene white moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Shana Tova. 5. Conclusion. 1 Shemuel chapter 20 is the account of Dawiḍ and Yahunathan executing a plan to determine if King Sha'ul intends to kill Dawiḍ. The plan involves Dawiḍ hiding in the field for 3 days, King Sha'ul hosting 2 banquet meals. Each meal is a bookend to the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month. And there are 2 signs. The first sign, tomorrow is the Chodesh. The second sign is when the Chodesh came. If the full moon opposition produces a lunar eclipse, then it may be observed as a penumbral, partial, or total lunar eclipse, a blood moon. However, most lunar months, the full moon opposition does not produce a lunar eclipse. And as it is difficult to distinguish between a 95% illuminated moon and a 100% illuminated moon, it can be difficult to determine if the moon has crossed over the syzygy line. However, Dawiḍ and Yahunathan give us 2 signs to show the full moon has crossed over the syzygy line. Identifying the nature of these 2 signs enables us to identify the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month, and also the first day of the Shana year. 1. The sign when the Chodesh came is, in the evening, the full moon rises after the sun sets, for the first time that lunar month. This is the sign King Sha'ul was looking for to host his first banquet meal. 2. Then we see the full moon night, when the Levana, the white moon, shines brightly from east to west. 3. In the morning, the sunrise marks the beginning of the Chodesh, the first day of the lunar month, also known as the Kisi Yom, throne day, a day of rest and worship. 4. In the evening, King Sha'ul hosts his second banquet meal. It is the esteem of Elohim to hide a matter, and the esteem of sovereigns to search out a matter.